So should we go into Weedle?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Right, Weedle. Um, I personally think Weedle is cooler than Caterpie.
I agree. I do. So I like Caterpie. I think Caterpie has the character because of the anime, because of being in Ash's team. But I think when you're playing the game,
Mm,
Weedle is more useful in that beginning bit because it has poison sting. Like I think when you encounter a Caterpie in that beginning bit, you're like, okay, I can just hit this. It's going to tackle and string shot. That's nothing.
mm,
Weedle will poison you and it'll fuck you up.
yeah,
And I feel like Weedle is more of a threat. And when you're at that very low level, having a Pokemon with a poison attack can come in quite handy.
yeah,
Even if it is, obviously weak against Brock Gym, weak against all of the um bird flying types that you find, but still, it is a better ally at that early stage of the game, given the options that you have. I agree. I think Weedle is cooler than Caterpie.
yeah. I think, and I think even like design wise, like mechanics wise, I think it's slightly better. Because I mean, as you know, I often go for the grass starter. One of the reasons why I like the grass
Yeah.
starters is even as a kid, I used to like draining. I used to like draining moves. So like
Yeah.
once Bulbasaur gets like Leech Seed, it's like right. This is like quite a cool kind of like mechanic. Even though I wasn't thinking it at
Yeah.
the time because I was too young, but I liked the idea of it's like slowly draining. And I've often said that if I was a gym leader, like in real life, I'd probably aim to be a poison gym leader.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I
That
think
sounds cool.
yeah, and I think part of that is because I like the kind of draining effects of. And Weedle will be the first Pokemon that you come across with that for you on your team and being used against you.
Yeah.
And and I think the other thing that makes it a bit cooler than Caterpie is even before the anime, it's got that big stinger on its head.
Yeah. The stinger is cool.
Mm,
The stinger is definitely cool. I think Caterpie has a very cute design for a bug, which again, I think, like I said in the Caterpie episode, made it a smart choice for joining Ash's team, where Misty could be creeped out by it because bug in general, and but like it was still cute enough, um, that kids wouldn't be threatened by it, kids
mm,
watching. And I think Weedle is also cute, but I think the stinger makes it a bit more threatening. So if you're like a bit of an edgy kid, you like Weedle a bit more.
yeah.
Um, and yeah,
Um,
I definitely see where you're coming from.
I mean, and believe me, I was the edgiest of the kids. People used to look at me with my in my blue velour Puma tracksuit. I'd be like, that there's an edgy child.
Nice.
Um,
I can imagine you.
yeah.
I
Uh,
bet you were adorable.
I don't know. Well, I mean, I don't think I'd have agreed with you at the time. I used to wear
No,
puffers.
yeah, you don't want to look adorable, but I'm sure you did.
Yeah.
Like no child wants to look cute. Children want to look cool and grown up, but they don't by dint of the fact that they're a child.
Well, I'm just trying to think of what other things I would have wore that that I'd have been like. Oh yeah, I'm a cool child. I used to have Pokemon clothes back when I was a child. I don't know if you had like Pokemon
Oh,
clothes.
back when you were a child, did you?
Yeah. And I mean, although it's not Pokemon, I'm wearing a Spider-Man t-shirt. I'm not. It's not as a. Um, but I remember I used to have this shirt, and it was Ash Ketchum, right? Like going to throw a Pokeball from behind, and it was like it was majority of his back, and he was like going to throw a Pokeball.
hmm
Uh, and I was like, oh, this looks really cool. And the last day I ever wore it was when another kid was like, it looks like Ash is wiping his ass.
Oh
And yeah, the shirt was ruined for me from that day forth.
no, that's so mean.
Well,
Children are such bullies.
yeah, that's kids for
Every
you.
every time I every time I hear a story about children being little cunts, I think of that bit from The Simpsons where Marge goes, "Oh, kids can be so cruel," and Bart goes, "We can? Thanks, Mum," and he runs out and punches Lisa. Like, I think that's one of my favorite jokes ever. And every time I think about children being little shits, it plays in my head. And no matter how sad the story is, I always cheer up a little bit.
Mm. I love Simpsons. I mean, if you wanted, I'd also be happy for us to do a Simpsons-based podcast at some point.
Once we've finished all the Pokemon, we'll start doing. Would we do Simpsons characters or Simpsons episodes?
I think Simpsons episodes. You could call it something like "Simping for the Simpsons."
Hey!
Look at that! All that
I
improv
reckon.
training.
If there were if people wanted it, like we'd never be wanting for something to do, would we?
If you want it, you get on that Patreon and you help us do these massive multi-year projects that we keep on coming up with ideas for, so that we're
I
not.
think this one is going to last us our entire life.
Well,
Our entire life. The
I'll
only
be
way
very
it
happy.
wouldn't is if we get enough Patreon money to do it full time and we can do a podcast a day.
Mm,
And then, because we have nothing else to do, because it's paying both of our living
mm.
expenses and a team of editors, uh, all of the admin is done. And I think it would still take us up to retirement.
You know, I'd be happy. I'd be happy to run the post office,
Oh, yeah, yeah. There are
collecting a
worse things to
pension.
do with your time. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Definitely worse ways to live your life.
Yeah. But I imagine that as we got into our 50s and 60s, just being like, in I don't know what you'd call a Pokemon in 20 years' time. I don't know. Give
I
me.
really hope if we did end up in our 60s doing this show and we were talking about the new Pokemon that are coming out as we age, I really hope that like our responses are like, this is a really cool and interesting idea for a Pokemon. Or if we're like, I don't love this, but this is how I would like it to be better. I would like that to be our approach. I hope we never get to be any of those fucking like like they're not even boomers because they're our age. Like the
Mm.
only people who play Pokemon are our age. But like those like Pokemon boomers who are like, oh, Gen 1 was better, and it's like it had one that was just eggs. No, it wasn't. Like you were just a child. You didn't care that it wasn't very imaginative. Like calm your tits, it's not for
Mm.
you.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
mean that happens a lot. Like I called someone on it like the other week where it wasn't Pokemon, but they were like going. They were going, music was much better back in my day. And I was like, no,
Like
all it is
no.
that it's not advertised to you anymore.
Yeah, it's not for you. Like back when you were a teenager and music is marketed at teenagers, you connected with the music that was happening, and so you thought it was good. Now, music is still marketed at teenagers. That's why like so many music videos are like set in schools. Like now that I'm an adult, that feels very predatory and I don't like it.
Mm.
When I was a kid, I was just like, yeah, this song really gets me, even though it was like blatantly written by like five studio execs who didn't give a shit and just wanted to like do cocaine and leave.
Mm. Let's carry on chatting about our franchise about a 10-year-old that leaves home
Weedles.
and lives in the forest.
Mm. Anyway, we like Weedle. It's cool. It's cooler
Yeah,
than Caterpie.
yeah.
Its
Um,
poison sting is really useful. Um, and I
I
think, yeah,
I
I
think
like
it's
Weedle.
I think its nose looks a bit like a Diglett.
It does. Although I feel like this is something that's going to come up. And I don't think I feel it doesn't apply to obviously like the Venonat Butterfree similarity because I think that was a case of a last minute changeover. But I think there are going to be some things that come up in the first generation in particular where we go, oh, those Pokemon look really similar. Is there a relation somewhere?
Mm,
And the relation is just going to be they were limited by what they could do in a sprite on a Game Boy Color.
mm,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Um, and I think this is one of those where, like, well, what kind of nose can we give it? It needs to be distinctly different from Caterpie, but there's only so many worms that like this type of bug, only so many noses that this type of bug could possibly have.
Mm,
And having a flat, round face, I think, wouldn't have suited it.
yeah.
And I think that's kind of how it ended up with the Diglett nose.
Yes. Well, the thing I was going to bring up was because I agree with you, and I think if they were to bring it in in a later generation, I think that they would have done a similar thing to like Diglett, Wiglet. Like they'd have, if they'd have made them
Yeah.
look that similar, they'd have likely have given them some some much more clear connection. Um,
Yeah.
but yes, I agree. The reason why they didn't is because of the limitations.
Which is fair. Like, I can't fault that. And I feel like it's not, I feel like they also have distinctly different enough, like, backstories
Mm.
and, like, different characteristics, typings, all of the other features of them are comfortably different enough that I'm just like, oh, they've copied this other Pokemon from earlier in the game.
Yeah,
Um,
because one of
yeah.
the things that I think I forget about Pokemon Red and Blue is so my first Game Boy was a Game Boy Color, and Game Boy and Pokemon Red and Blue were originally designed for the green screen, uh, Game Boy,
Game
and
Boy, just
yeah,
original Game Boy.
and I remember. So the last time I played Pokemon Red and Blue was a couple of years ago on the 3DS when it got re-released on the 3DS store. And I remember,
Okay.
and they did it in black and white and green and like and the green and black. And I was playing it, just going, this here is like so much worse than the Game Boy Color, what the Game Boy Color did
Okay.
for the graphics. Um, so yeah, so there would have been whole loads of people who would have been playing as Weedle, on an original Game Boy, and they'd have been looking for any opportunity to make these different. And yeah, I think that you're right. They were like, we can't just have it be no faced, so just stick a big red nose on it and be done with it.
I think that's cute. I think it works.
Mm,
Like, I'm fine with that. I don't have a problem. I think yeah, I think it does look cute, and I think in a way that I didn't manage to capture in my drawing, I think like, the Pokemon card I had in mind was also a really cute Weedle, and I think it is a testament to people who can draw much better than me that they can put character and personality and feeling and emotion into such a simple face.
mm,
Especially like I know a lot of people put effort into doing like much better fan art now than I can manage, or can fit into 10 minutes even if I could
mm,
draw that well. Um, but I think it's also kind of a testament to the quality of animation in the 90s that like we remember these characters so vividly, where animation was nowhere near as advanced as it is now. Um, and I think, and also like fun fact, the newer generations of Pokemon have some of the advanced animation software in the world. Um,
oh, I
because
didn't know that.
yeah, so basically during the Black and White series, the animation style went down the fucking toilet. Like
Mm,
they just stopped giving a shit. And they were like, well, this is just crap for children, so we're not gonna put that much effort into it.
yeah.
The script writing was poor. The animation was poor and frequently repeated frames. So every time Ash threw a Pokeball, they just blanked out the background of wherever he was standing and used the same animation rather than like animating it each time he did it.
Mm,
So even if he was like wearing different clothes or didn't have his hat on or something like that, it would be the same animation and you could tell it was really lazy. And then Pokemon Origins came out on YouTube, which was like a fan project,
mm,
which told the story of Red and Blue, but in like a bit like and as it followed the games
mm,
with a more kind of mature look at it.
mm,
And it was amazing. If you haven't watched it, watch Pokemon Origins. It's incredible.
yeah.
And then uh because that was so popular, the studio realized actually there's a massive market that we're alienating by making the animation so
Mm,
poor. And they sacked their entire animation team. They got in new people. They reached out to the people at Pokemon Origins and were like, "Do you want to be involved?" And they um got all new script writers and everything, and they invested in like cutting edge animation technology that didn't exist anywhere else to make the animation like fluid and smoother,
mm,
which is why I think it was the Kalos region that this was introduced in, so a little while ago now, and they have stayed working really hard to be like the best animation they can. And I think if you watch the more recent seasons, you can tell.
mm,
But like going back to my original point was that like they did a lot with very simple designs in the first generation. And I think it is a credit to the effort they were putting in at the time. And I think we're gonna kind of revisit this conversation later on when we get to, the much later generations
Mm,
where we sort of say about kind of Gen 4, Gen 5 Pokemon, oh, it's a bit uncomfortable that this Pokemon didn't get
mm,
what it deserved because it was let down by sloppy writing and
mhm,
poor animation quality. And then in the later seasons, we are gonna see kind of a revival of people's connections to the Pokemon that are in the show because it shot straight back up in quality.
mm.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. I never knew that. Do you think that there's a connection between that and the fact that they've decided to reboot it?
No, because I think it was a few seasons ago. It was quite a few seasons ago now. That they brought in the um new animation style. And I think that they are maintaining quality, but I genuinely think like people are getting a little bit silly with the way that they go like, oh, Ash is like 30 years old, 10-year old with 25 years experience, all this stuff. And having I think now the world is a bit more progressive than it
Yeah,
was in the 90s, having like, the two boys and a girl team is not the one anymore. Because that was very common in the 90s. You have your main boy, you'd have his best friend boy, and you'd have the girl that there was maybe some romantic chemistry with. And Pokemon in particular, like, switched out the girl each time, and it's just like, why aren't we connecting with any female character?
mm,
And I think they kind of want to break the mold a little bit, move away from that, and just introduce new characters because it was getting a little bit tiresome for like people who've been watching it for 30 years, even though it is aimed at children, seeing the main character like never get to his goal.
yeah,
And I think that's the thing that I don't like about sort of sitcoms, in that in order for the sitcom to stay on and stay funny, the characters have to not hit their targets.
yeah,
They have like as soon as they reach their goal, the story's over. Like
yeah,
there's a story arc that's completed, and you have to introduce something else. Um, and I think that's why things like Always Sunny work because it is satisfying when they don't achieve their goals because they're bad people.
yeah,
But when you get a main character that you like, which is arguably what you need to make a story work, otherwise, again, like Always Sunny, if you don't like them, they have to be very compelling and interesting.
mm,
And when you get a main character that you like, seeing them consistently not hit their goals is really disappointing. It makes you not like the show anymore.
yeah,
And like I've seen like Reddit threads of grown ass adults saying, "Oh, I'm really disappointed that Ash Ketchum hasn't won a league yet." And like the guy who brought out all of the legendaries was like, "Oh, Pikachu only lost because he was up against five legendaries. How did this random trainer get a bunch of legendary Pokemon?" And yeah, it's a plot device to keep Ash the main character.
mm,
Um, but yeah, there's only so long they could have got away with it,
yeah,
and I think it's not a bad call to bring in a new character, start over again. Um, Maybe introduce a better kind of system for switching out characters for other ones so that um it's not another 30 years and then we've got the next generation of people going like, oh, why can't the character win for once? Meh.
yeah.
know?
Yeah, well, I mean, they missed out an opportunity. They missed out the opportunity to do that when they swapped over from red and blue to gold. Um, you know, um,
Yeah.
like that was the opportunity to kind of swap it around if they so chose to, and then because they didn't, I think that they had then set the precedent. Um, and
Yeah.
now the fact that they're changing it, and now it feels odd, much more odd than it might have doing it back then. Uh,
Yeah. I do get that, but like um it had to happen sooner or later.
yeah,
Like they're already on the second voice actor. And I think especially where you have a character with quite a husky voice, you notice them not like you notice them start to struggle.
yeah,
Like if you've seen new episodes of The Simpsons, like
mm,
the poor actress doing Marge's voice just sounds Like she's in so much pain
Yeah, yes.
doing that like scratchy voice. Um, and I feel like if they they have some actors do kind of a voice, I don't want to say closer to their own because obviously they're going to be adults playing children, but if they um just do something a little bit softer on the vocal cords, I think yeah, there's a bit more longevity. Not that there needs more longevity because obviously um you know this has lasted quite some time.
So my question to you is, uh, I feel like I know what the answer's going to be. Have you had a Weedle on your team?
Um, yeah, I'm sure I have. I don't really remember a very vivid time where like Weedle was so good I kept it on for very long. But I did do the same as I did with Caterpie every single time. Every single time I encountered a Weedle, I'd get it. I would evolve it to full so I could like put it in the box and not worry about it. I've checked off 3 Pokemon from my Pokedex before I carry on.
Yeah,
And that was okay. I didn't dislike Weedle ever. And it definitely came in handy a couple of times having that poison sting, but I didn't really keep it for very long because I got uh poison sting wasn't hugely effective as far as poison type moves go. So if I could swap it out for like if I had a Bulbasaur, I just didn't waste my time with a Weedle.
yeah,
If I could swap it out for like an Oddish or something, I usually would
yeah,
just because that's a better poison type Pokemon.
yeah. Well,
Better poison type moves.
I feel like Weedle's got a couple of things going against it for me. So first of all, like, I have a preference for the grass starter, and in
Yeah.
red and blue, it's grass poison type. So,
Yeah.
so I'm very likely to swap it out at that point. Um, I, this might just be my kind of misremembering of it. Like I might be wrong about this because I've not got like the stats like in front of me, but I feel like Butterfree is ultimately slightly more effective than Beedrill. Um, like I feel like Butterfree feels a tiny bit stronger, like long term, and it's got the kind of sleep powder and all that kind of stuff
Yeah.
in there as well. So I feel like once I have the Beedrill and once the kind of oh, this is a cool new Pokemon, I'm gonna play about with it, wore off, I was much more
Yeah.
likely to swap it out quicker than I would a Butterfree, and
Yeah.
you know, I don't think you'd probably come across someone who would swap out their starter for a Beedrill.
For a Beedrill,
Yeah,
yeah. I
but
think
oh, go on.
I think you're not wrong with that one because like Beedrill being part poison type means it gets like stab on the poison moves.
Yeah,
But as we said in like the Butterfree episode before, Butterfree is like a better all rounder. It had it and it also covers poison. If you're just trying to poison something, Butterfree has poison powder, doesn't even need stab. Like
yeah,
it's perfectly good with poison powder. And then it has all those other good moves.
yeah. The other thing that I think it's got going against it as well is I can't remember which version of it that this is in. It might be yellow. It might be blue. But if you go up to Viridian City and then you can go left onto Route 17, I think it is, and you can catch a Nidoran down there. Um, and again,
Which also has poison sting. So you've got a poison type Pokemon with another better move pool that has
mm,
yeah, yeah, you're not wrong.
so yeah, so that's so like I say, I feel like everybody's got probably had a Weedle, but they've probably it's very unlikely that I imagine that anyone would consider themselves a Beedrill specialist.
Yeah. I would be interesting to see uh how popular Beedrill is in competitive play.
Oh, well. I mean, on that note,
We'll get there.
yeah,
We'll get
we're
there.
jumping ahead, but um, I, it does similar to Butterfree have like mega evolutions and stuff like that. So They have
Yes, it
presumably,
does.
but it would not surprise me, and again, we'll get there, that is partly due to the popularity of it in the anime.
Yeah, that makes sense. I would agree with that. I think that that sounds like a fair assumption.
Right. Should we go into... I'll get the Pokedex entries up.
Do it.
Right, let's do this. And I'm just going to... Okie doke. So, we have got the Dex entries here. Um, right. Often found in forests eating leaves, it has a sharp, venomous stinger on its head. What I appreciate about this, but because we've looked at it from... because we've been going through them now, there's none of this dick swinging yet.
Yeah.
I feel like we got with Caterpie, where it was like, the leaves are bigger than itself.
Yeah. Yeah. Such a very hungry caterpillar.
But, let's
Um,
see where it goes.
I mean, so Yellow says beware of the sharp stinger on its head, but sharp isn't like again, it's not dick swinging yet. It's like um it's just it is sharp, which is factual and it's a statement.
Mm.
It's not like, oh, it's so sharp it will like cut through your entire rib cage or whatever bullshit they would come up.
Well, I mean, let's see what Stadium Professor's got going on it. I've just read what the stadium... Oh, I know what I'm going to say now, right? A common sight in forests and grassy areas has a poison stinger on its head that may be used if you step on it. Which to me says, why has the Stadium Professor been stepping on him? like
Yeah.
this is a theme. This is a theme for Stadium Professor, isn't it?
Stadium Professor just harasses Pokemon.
He's cracking open metapods. He's stamping on Weedles. He's the right dick. He's just going. Oh, do you think? Do you think that the stinger can get through? Can get through your shoe? Well, there's only one way to find out, isn't there? Uh, right.
So hang on. So I've had a little browse, and all of Generation Two, so Gold, Silver, Crystal, Stadium Two, are pretty similar. Poison Sting are very powerful. Brightly colored body to one off enemies. Interesting. That makes sense. That fits with the animal kingdom that we know.
Yeah.
Attacks using a poison barb on its head can usually be found under leaves. Makes sense. Barb on its head secretes a strong poison, uses it to protect itself. Again, consistently making sense.
Yeah.
And then you get to Generation 3,
Yeah. Go
and
on.
it changes it up. It's no longer about its poison, it's about its sense of smell. So it
Oh.
says Weedle has an extremely acute sense of smell. It is capable of distinguishing its favorite kind of leaves from those it dislikes. This is my favorite bit. Just by sniffing with its big red proboscis brackets nose. And I love how, like when I think proboscis, I think of like a mosquito long pointy nose.
Mm,
But I do know that it means nose.
mm.
And I love that I love that they have specified nose, but they still wanted to include the word proboscis. And I feel like this is kind of a bit of a different kind of dick swinging. It's like my vocabulary dick swinging. It's like, excuse me, I know a long word for nose. I'm not just going to write nose, but I'm going to assume you're too fit to know what a proboscis is. So I'm going to put in brackets nose. And
Yes.
also, I feel like regardless of whether you think this is a professor getting salty with another professor he thinks is fit,
Mm.
or if you think this is Nintendo being a bit patronizing to the children that are going to be playing this game and reading it, Weedle only has one big red thing on its body,
It's true.
and also it's like it says that this is an appendage that it smells with. I think given those clues, we can assume that proboscis means nose.
Mm. And we also know that that Caterpie stinks, so no wonder there's like a rivalry going on.
I would absolutely fucking love it if one of these things was Weedle has a really acute sense of smell. It fucking hates stinky Caterpie. They are mortal enemies, and Weedle's just chase Caterpie around with its poison sting to because it keeps stinking up the forest.
Yeah, and it's just going. It's like Romeo and Juliet, isn't it? It's like why do the Montagues and the Capulets not like each other? Because the Capulets
Oh,
fucking stink.
let's fucking stink. I'd love it if like a Weedle was born without a sense of smell and fell in love with a Caterpie, and then you had like a whole Romeo and Juliet thing go on there, and all of the Butterfrees were like, no, that one's family keeps poisoning us, and the Beedrills are like, no, that one stinks. They run away to be together.
uh,
Same tragic ending. Like Weedle fakes its death, and then Caterpie poison stings itself on Weedle's head. And then Weedle wakes up to find Caterpie murdered with its own poison.
I mean, that's. I mean, I wouldn't put it past Stadium Professor to put something like that in his entry. Uh, just like,
Stadium Professor like did that and then got in trouble, and that's why he doesn't run the Pokemon Theatre Company anymore.
yeah, that's the reason why there is not a Stadium 3 because Stadium Professor got binned. It was
Okay.
they were like this is like a Pokemon version of the movie franchise Saw. Just him, just hello Weedle, I want to play a game. Um,
Um, so we got more stuff about being in forests, eating leaves, having a stinger. We know.
uh,
Diamond and Pearl says it eats its weight in leaves every day.
oh, we're dick swinging now. How much does it weigh?
I
I just want to see how much it weighs.
let's have a look. Let's have a
Fucking
look.
hell,
I
7.1
desperately
pounds.
I could eat 7.1 pounds of leaves probably. But like I would love to be one of these animals that eats its own weight in food and is just fine, doesn't like gain its own weight in food. Where do I get this metabolism, please?
Well, you need to develop your proboscis in brackets nose.
And then I can sniff out the food that I can
Mm,
eat my own weight of and won't get like insanely unhealthy.
yeah. Uh, Tell you what, right?
Um,
I've noticed that it's mentioned a number of times that the 2-inch poison barb, and I wonder how
yeah.
much they were like. If we'd not mentioned how long the poison barb was, how much we could have been like. Its poison barb is as long as the mast of the Eiffel Tower when it is upset.
That would be if you could get a Gigantamax Weedle.
Mm,
Gigantamax Weedle the size of the Eiffel Tower with a massive poison barb.
well,
Uh,
we've got here black and white. We're back to eating its waiting leaves,
I
and
eat
then
its weight in leaves.
fends off attackers, which we can. I'd love it if it was fends its weight. It fends off attackers in brackets. Stadium Professor.
It fends off the fucking stadium professor that keeps harassing it.
Yeah, whoever wrote the entries for Stadium, they were obviously fuming. Just every day they had to
Good.
come in. Oh, we got X and Y. It's got poison stinger is very powerful. Which how powerful?
Very, very powerful. I think the rest of them just kind of repeat themselves. Eats his weight in leaves, got a sharp stinger, hides
Yeah,
in grass and bushes, sniffs its big red proboscis.
yeah. I'll tell you what.
Cool.
Just before we move on, do you think that the proboscis is in there because is that the generation that Probopass comes in?
The first one it was in was, yes, Ruby and Sapphire.
So yeah, so maybe they were like going right.
They're
Any
like, this is
reference
why
to a
it's called.
nose, we need to fucking put
Yeah.
proboscis in here.
We need to let people know why Probopass is called Probopass. I like it when they're a bit more subtle than that, but then it's Pokemon and they're never fucking subtle, so
Nah. Right. Well, should we move on to the Smogon entries?
let's have a look at a Smogon entry.
Okie doke. We got that up here. Okie doke. So there they are. Uh, Probably comes as no surprise that they are all in the red.
Yeah, I mean, it's a Pokemon that you have to be able to defeat when you are, you know, all of your Pokemon are fucking level 5 still.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, so it doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, I do think it looks
Uh,
very cute there, having its little dance on Smogon.
yeah, I do like the animation for it. It's very, I love his
Yeah.
little tail wag. Yeah.
I tell you what, I feel like if they were to if that was in how many animals have their poison stinger on their head versus their tail?
I mean, Weedle has both.
Oh, do they have both?
Yeah.
Well, now,
Yeah, because if you look at its little flappy tail, it's got both.
but it's always going on about the stinger on its head. Never
I guess
mentions it on it.
the stinger on its head, I guess it's a primary stinger, and the stinger on its tail is it's like secondary stinger.
I feel like we've sounded like the announcers to Robot Wars. Like, I don't know if you ever used to
Yeah.
watch that back in the day, and they'd be like, Hypnodisc has got a primary disc and a secondary disc. Just to
Yeah.
justify how badass ultimately a worm is.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah.
we can see there it's in the little cup, and the little cups for Pokemon that are not evolved. But I feel like if you had a Weedle, you would very likely at least
Yeah.
go up to a
Because those
Kakuna.
Yeah, those poison type moves I reckon would come in pretty handy because Little Cup you get a lot of Pokemon that you don't have great moves yet.
Yeah,
So, yeah, I reckon having a poison type move so early on is absolutely to its benefit. I reckon it wouldn't be too bad.
yes. But as we've mentioned, unfortunately, I think it is. I think it does have various other options that I think it would get dropped out for quickly,
Yeah.
even by its own evolution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because like Kakuna, I guess if you raise it from a Weedle, it retains uh I guess all of the moves it had as a Weedle, so it still has that poison move, but it's got better defense.
Mm,
So yeah.
yeah. And its speed would, I mean, we could say that its speed is its highest attribute, which I'm actually surprised at because I don't consider it a particularly speedy Pokemon. But,
No. I guess it's gotta be to escape, the Pidgey's trying to eat it and the Caterpie's stinking out its house.
I mean, yeah, you got to get away from that real quick. Um, okay, so should we give it our Trubbish rating?
Yeah.
So, I think I'm going to give this. Oh, I'm probably going to give it a 4.
Hmm. I was also thinking four
Yeah.
because I think it's cute, it's cool, but I don't have too many memories of it from the show. I have too many memories of it from um the game.
Mm,
It's there. It's a good addition to like the world and the environment, but like eh.
yeah,
If I
I
don't see a Weedle, I'm not gonna be like, oh, I really want to see a Weedle in this game.
yeah. I mean, I feel like I'm probably going to say this for the. I feel like I'm going to repeat this the next 2 times, but I feel like it's to its detriment. Um, Beedrill is the star of this line, and I feel like it overshadows the other two like so massively in a way
Definitely.
in
Yeah.
a way that I feel like we've not come across yet before. In this chronological order, but I feel like both Weedle and Kakuna are so overshadowed by Beedrill that it's like
Yeah.
if they decided to make Beedrill just its own, its own solo Pokemon, I don't think that anyone would be that bothered about. Oh, but we're losing
Yeah.
Weedle and Kakuna to get that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a very fair point.